2 days ago, in a series between G2 and BLG, in game number 3, there was a pause due to the potential Kalista bug. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. At first I thought it's gonna be a straightforward yes or no bug video, but it is League of Legends, and oh boy, this suddenly became a little more complicated. Yesterday we got a big Reddit thread in which the author was saying that there was indeed a Kalista bug in this game, explaining it in details, so we'll also address it. Fortunately, I was able to get the replay file of this game, so we will do a proper VOD review of that bug moment. Let's not waste any more time and let's have a look at that replay. I only spent 2 hours opening it because Vanguard is the best software in the world. I love Vanguard. Alright, so this is the game deciding teamfight. We can see that Kalista uses her E right after Sylas gets out of Zhonya's and around the moment Rumble's Zhonya starts. We can see that Sylas is hit and the spears are pulled out of him, while Rumble doesn't get hit. Few seconds after that moment, Hansama has paused the game, and as Shox said on the stream, the reason was that there was a potential bug that didn't allow him to cast his Rend, which is Kalista's E. When we watch the clips in slow motion, the straightforward answer would be he hit Sylas, so he didn't get a reset, so everything was as it should. That being said, I've heard some rumors that Kalista E could have looked to Hans like it was up, while in reality it wasn't, so I had to check it out. It's a bug that sometimes happens in League of Legends, where the ability looks ready, but you cannot actually use it. We also know that Kalista is a fairly bugged champion. Let's have a quick look at 2 Kalista bugs that made me believe some shenanigans there were possible. First, here we can see Kalista getting resets after every Rend on Wolves. Rend doesn't kill, but it's still refunded, so she can use it few times in a row. Second, here we can see that Kalista E has definitely killed the minion, Kalista even got the gold for it, but the Kalista E went on cooldown and only refreshed after more than 2 seconds. Sure, these clips are 2-3 years old, but in League, bugs like to come back, so it's good to check them out. Because the Riot didn't post Hans POV, I think it was fair to be slightly suspicious, especially because referees often don't have the best knowledge regarding the bugs. Fortunately, thanks to a reliable source I contacted, I was able to get the confirmation that this scenario didn't happen. Now it's time for a skin theory. The author of the Reddit post suggested that the Rend bug indeed happened in that game. According to him, Kalista Rend should have procced earlier than it did in that fight. Normally Rend procs instantly, and he was suggesting that with the skin Hans was playing, it wasn't happening as fast. We know that Hans played with Fairy Court Kalista skin in this game, so I compared it with original Kalista skin. Here you can see a comparison going frame by frame. The animations, the damage numbers, and the damage itself match perfectly to the frame. Sure, the Rend bar is slightly off, but I honestly wouldn't pay attention to it since everything else matched, so I personally believe skin wasn't a problem here. Okay, we know what didn't happen, let's have a look at what happened. For this we need to pay close attention to the moment when Rumble enters Zhonya's. At this moment the game tells us that Rumble is already in stasis, as we can see by the Zhonya's icon in Rumble's status bar. What's pretty interesting is that the difference between icon appearing and the Rumble Zhonya's VFX actually starting was 15 frames, but it was with 60 FPS and slow motion. So to make it simpler, I also recorded it without slow motion and then looked at the frames. So in this case, Zhonya's icon appeared 3 frames before the Zhonya VFX and the sound effects. In Sylas' case, 3 seconds earlier, the difference was 1 frame. Such difference can probably be explained by a League of Legends tick rate, as League is only using 30 Hz tick rate, and that is something that Riot is not planning to change. So the question is, when does Zhonya really start? When the icon appears or when the VFX starts? I decided to do a normal POV recording, and to my surprise, it was desynced, but the other way around. So in Spectators mode, Zhonya's icon appears few frames before the VFX. But when you record in game, Zhonya's icon appears after the VFX. In this case, it was 1 frame after the VFX. When you check the same clip in Spectators mode, icon appears earlier. In this case, the icon appeared 3 frames before Zhonya's VFX. So in both cases, Zhonya was already working for a couple of frames, because we can see by the gold bar the invulnerability status around the health bar. This makes me think it's very likely that the icon in Spectators mode in BLG versus G2 was right. That would mean Rumble was in fact invulnerable a few frames earlier than we thought. So it wasn't even the matter of 1 frame timing, but actually a few frames. This makes it a bit less unlucky for G2. Why is the status icon so delayed in normal gameplay? I really don't know. Now that we clarified few potential problems, it's time for the final evaluation of the Kalista bug. What happened to Hans is that he got confused about E being on cooldown because it hit Silas right after he went out of Zhonya's. And in the heated moment he didn't notice that E was on cooldown, or he didn't know why it was on cooldown. The pause didn't happen during the teamfight, so I would say the pause timing was alright and pause itself wasn't very unreasonable. League of Legends is full of bugs, as we all know, and we know that Kalista historically used to have plenty of them. When the entire season for a team, or a career for some players, can be decided by a random bug, looking at you top esports, I would say it was a good decision. If you have a suspicion of a bug, you have to pause the game while it's still going. Because if you don't do it during the game, well, then that's over. No chance of rewinding that decision. Now imagine if you didn't pause in that moment and it turned out there actually was a bug there. That would be terrible. That's why, in my opinion, Hans's decision to pause the game under the circumstances was reasonable. If you are a pro player and you think that the bug happened to you, definitely go for a pause. Unless the bug is on Riot's magical bug list, but shame on you if you don't spend a few hours each patch memorizing every single bug on that list and in the heated moment you forget, shame on you. So unless that bug is there, the pause is definitely justified. So this is the end of the investigation. All in all, there wasn't really a bug there and the referee's decision was alright. Well, at the very least we learned that Zhonya's VFX doesn't really match the invulnerability and it doesn't really match the icon as well, so it can sometimes be pretty confusing. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.